Hello everyone, welcome to the Psychology of Dating podcast. You are listening to Nadine Newkirk. I am a clinical psychologist and a dating coach. In today's episode, I want to explore what does it mean if you are having a relationship with yourself, if you are having a relationship with your own emotions, and why or how could this be helpful for you during your dating process or in a relationship. Before we get into that, I want to remind you that I've got a free guide called Top 3 Mindset Shifts in Dating. If you want to access this guide, you can find the link in the episode show notes. It runs through 3 core unhelpful beliefs I've come across when people discuss dating difficulties and some potential reframes that might be useful for your brain. So, maybe you're dating, maybe you're looking for a relationship and you're thinking, why do you want me to, it's already effortful and hard, why do you want me to now spend more time building a relationship with myself? I already know me. And I want to run through some situations where it could be helpful, where you might be kind of rejecting part of yourself or feeling shameful or trying to hide part of yourself, criticizing part of yourself, and how this could actually be kind of bleeding into dating or holding you back in your relationships. So first of all, when we talk about having a kind and compassionate relationship with yourself, it's thinking about being mindful of what comes up. Emotions, behaviors, patterns, thoughts we have. And when we're being mindful, we're curiously observing what's there without judgment, which can be really, really hard. We can do it a lot easier for other people, and we can be our own worst critics. So we're mindfully seeing what's there and then bringing some understanding and some compassion to what's there. And again, this can be so challenging with things that you might hate about yourself. You might think, I'm defective in some way. There's quite a push for perfectionism when we see other people on social media, we see movies, we see all these different forms of ideals that we wish we had, and we're humans. We're never going to meet this magical unicorn ideal that's out there that is 100% perfect. It doesn't exist. We're humans. And when we criticize perceived flaws, what we're doing is rejecting part of ourselves. And if there's parts of you that you really reject or want to hide from others, this gets really hard or stressful in dating or relationships. Because one, it creates a lot of distress and energy trying to mask these parts. You're going on dates, it's going well, but you feel like, I can't show them how anxious I get. I need to just pretend to be happy and fine and chill and calm all the time. And inevitably, if you get deeper into a connection, parts of this are going to come out. Or you might try and bottle things in, ignore those emotions, pretend that those behaviors don't exist. And then they explode. They come out over time when you kind of least expect it and not in the way that you anticipated. Or you might be unconsciously acting from, difficult emotions or things like that are unprocessed. Maybe you've been dating a certain type of emotionally unavailable person and you think, okay, I'm going to give new people a try. And then unconsciously you meet someone new who's showing up kind and consistent, and you just get this strong avoidance feeling, and before you know it, you're like running for the hills. Maybe you've been hurt before in a past relationship, and so when you're dating, your intellectual brain thinks it's helping you by having very high standards of people and sifting quickly through people, when actually unconsciously what's happening is you're not giving people a chance, that you're not giving time for things to develop and build a connection. You're kind of moving past people too quickly to even see what's there. Maybe you feel ashamed about something about your body. There's too much hair or too little hair, or you're too tall, or you're too short, or any possible number of criticisms that a human can have about themselves. And this shame makes you want to withdraw, to try and hide it from people. So maybe you're going out in summer and wearing kind of longer, baggier clothes, or you're not talking to someone about how you feel. And this actually exacerbates it, where you start to feel more self-conscious. You imagine people thinking negative things about you. When you're being intimate, you imagine them thinking, oh, how horrible. And then this creates a really negative experience for you in that situation. You could be lashing out or getting angry at a partner because they don't understand. But have you ever had it where you're getting angry at someone for not understanding and you realize you don't really understand yourself, why you're so upset? I've definitely had that. So these all might be parts of ourselves that we're hiding, rejecting, or trying to ignore. So the first step in starting to build a relationship with yourself is get to know yourself. So imagine, you've just started at a new job and you're trying to get to know your colleagues. You would spend a bit of quality time with them, maybe in your lunch break. It doesn't have to be flooding. You don't have to spend 10 hours with this colleague, but maybe you have a 20-minute chat and then an hour chat. Maybe you ask some curious questions. Maybe you hold back judgments and try and keep an open mind. Instead of thinking, what's wrong with me, that I'm defective, I'm broken, ask the question, what happened to me? Where did this part of me come from? And what purpose did they have? How could they have helped me? For example, if you have a part of you that is self-critical, thinking about, okay, this is one, it's human. We all have a self-critical part. And two, this develops over time. Parts of us, our behaviors, our emotions, our thoughts, they develop over time, and they are from learned experiences. That we pick up these learned experiences over time, and our body and our brain, our nervous system learn what is going to help me in the future. And it kind of imprints these learned experiences. And sometimes we can have events right from being an infant, childhood, teenagerhood, all the way up until now, events that are still influencing us. And maybe someone in childhood had experiences of being bullied, and they then developed self-criticism. So how could this have helped them back then? Maybe being self-critical meant that they didn't speak up as much or kept themselves smaller, more invisible. And therefore, they didn't get as much attention from the bullies. It actually helped keep them safe, more emotionally safe. Maybe that self-criticism came to protect them so that they could preserve the best parts of themselves. To keep the parts of themselves intact, that they wouldn't be humiliated or rejected by other people. They had to keep it hidden away. And so that self-criticism was there to try and keep it down. If you try and bring compassion to parts, you can get more understanding. That usually can bring out the compassion. So imagine someone has recently been through a car accident. Understandably, they'd be really scared and stressed about that. And imagine if they suddenly heard a loud screeching noise just like what happened in that car accident, and they jumped to the ground automatically and they were shaking and they were stressed. We wouldn't blame them or judge them. We would understand that part of them doesn't know that it's safe now, that this is different. And parts of yourself that you reject often are parts that have been there for a reason, survival responses, to keep you safe, to try and help you. The more we can have compassion for these parts, strangely enough, actually sometimes the less loud they get. Because if we ignore parts of ourselves, they get louder. They're like, you're not listening. And the emotions get bigger and they bottle up further. And if you think about that analogy of starting a new job and meeting a colleague, that if you and the colleague take some time to get to know each other, understand each other, have compassion, you're probably more likely to listen to each other than when, you have a piece of advice for a work project. You're like, hey, I know you've done it this way. I also had this idea. And they're probably going to be more receptive to that idea. And that's the same with parts of ourselves that we reject. The more you have a relationship with them and a dialogue with them, the more when a situation comes up and you're like, hey, brain, I know you're wanting to be really self-critical of me when I'm trying on this new outfit and, speaking in public. And that was maybe really helpful for me in the past. And actually, things are quite different now. Why don't we try on something a bit different tonight? Why don't we try and look at the things that we're really grateful for? And I really appreciate your help, brain. You've been there through a lot and you're going to help me if needed. And let's just test something out tonight. See what happens. And it can take practice. So this is where you might want some support from a therapist, from a close friend or someone you want to talk to, share and open up about this. Remembering that the important thing is to bring mindful awareness and compassion to these parts and understanding that the less you reject yourself, the less you'll fear rejection from other people. Because the more we reject ourselves, the more we fear rejection from other people, the more we fear that there's something wrong with us. And then when something happens, like they ghost us, it touches a bruise that we're not good enough. And we think it's, that's the reason that nothing's working out. Whereas if we accept and understand ourselves, we can see other people's behaviors more clearly, more objectively, that their behaviors are about them, not about us. Okay, everyone, I hope you have a lovely day or night wherever you are, and I'll speak with you again next week.